Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
15 years. That's how long I gave to Bixby's Diner. I ran that kitchen like it was my own damn home. Organized every order, trained every line cook, fixed every broken appliance myself because Carl was too cheap to call maintenance. So when he asked me to come in early before my shift, I figured maybe someone finally noticed. Instead, I walked into his corner booth and saw that look. Avoiding eye contact, fidgeting with a napkin, talking like a man who'd already rehearsed every word. He said, "We're restructuring the kitchen, Deb." I didn't blink. "Yeah? Restructuring what?" He sighed like he pitied me. "We're bringing in some fresh blood, a culinary school graduate. She's younger, knows the new trends, more affordable." Just like that. More affordable. Before we go further, quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Anyway, I leaned back, arms crossed, said nothing. He filled the silence like he always does when he's guilty. "You've done amazing work here," he added, waving his hand like he was blessing me. "Truly, but we're shifting directions. You understand?" I stared straight at him. "So I'm fired." No, just transitioning out. It's not personal." Not personal? I trained half the damn kitchen, built the inventory system from scratch. When the walk-in broke last winter, I drove across town in an ice storm to haul dry ice in my own car. This wasn't a layoff, it was a swap. I kept my voice level. "What about the systems I put in, my tools?" Carl nodded like he was doing me a favor. "Of course, take anything that's yours. We appreciate you." Appreciate me? I should have laughed. Instead, I shook his hand, stood up, and walked out. I didn't cry. I didn't slam the door. I just started making a mental list. Knives, mixers, storage racks, the backup POS tablet I bought when his system kept crashing. My initials were burned into the handles of every high-grade pan in that place. If he wanted fresh blood, fine. But I wasn't leaving a drop behind. I showed up that Thursday before sunrise, hoodie up, gloves on, and a roll of tape in one hand, Sharpie in the other. The place was dark, locked up, quiet like nothing had changed, but everything had. I still had my keys. He never asked for them back. I hit the back door, flipped on the prep lights, and walked straight to the knife rack. Every blade I ever bought was right where I left it, still marked on the handles with my initials. DC, burned in with a soldering pen. Box by box, I got to work. Knives first, then the skillets, the good cast irons, not those warped, cheap ones Carl kept in the overflow cabinet. I pulled the sous vide from the bottom drawer, the blenders from the smoothie station nobody ever used right, the digital thermometers, the sharpening stone, the vacuum sealer, and the backup POS tablet I'd bought myself 2 years back when Carl's ancient register kept freezing. I still had the original case with my name Sharpied on the back, just in case anyone tried to claim it wasn't mine. I was halfway into the storage fridge when I heard the front door jingle. I froze. Door didn't unlock unless you had a key. Carl's voice echoed from the hallway. "Deb?" I stayed crouched by the fridge, box open, checking dates on the backup dry goods shelf I built into the walk-in. He stepped into the kitchen, eyes scanning the half-emptied stations. "What the hell is this?" I stood up. "You said take what's mine." He pointed at the prep station. "You can't take that, or the fryer. That's company property." I didn't even flinch. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out the folder I brought. "Receipts," I said. "For the butcher block table and the fryer. Both were purchased out of pocket after the originals broke. You told me you couldn't afford to replace them, remember?" He looked at the paper like it might bite him. "Deb, be reasonable." I stepped toward the fryer, unplugged it from the gas line, turned the knob off, slow and deliberate. "That's the only working fryer in this place. The other one spits oil like a damn lawnmower. You didn't mind when I footed the bill." He opened his mouth like he was going to argue, then shut it. I kept packing, took down the magnetic spice racks I mounted myself, pulled my labeled dry storage bins from the top shelf. Every single thing that had my name, initials, or receipt behind it was coming with me. A few minutes later, I heard a knock at the back door. It was Angie, still in her coat, holding coffee and a stack of moving blankets. "You said you might need help?" she said, already walking in. I didn't say anything, just handed her a box and kept moving. Carl stood near the dish pit like he didn't know what to do. "You're gutting the whole line," he said quietly. I didn't even look up. "No, Carl, I'm reclaiming it. We worked fast. Angie had a trucker's efficiency, labeling, wrapping, and taping down anything breakable. I made one trip to the car, and she already had the sauce station broken down. Deb, Carl tried again. How am I supposed to open Monday without equipment? I locked eyes with him for the first time that morning. Not my kitchen, not my problem. By the time the sun was up, my pickup was packed to the brim. Angie tied down the last box with bungee cords while I did one final walkthrough. Empty shelves, gutted drawers. A line that looked exactly like what it was. Abandoned. I handed Carl his keys. Next time you fire someone, you better check whose name's on your gear. I climbed into the truck, Angie slid into the passenger seat, and we drove off without another word. By Sunday, I was finally breathing again. I'd spent the weekend wiping down every piece of gear I brought home, reorganizing my garage, tossing out old containers, and wiping the grease off my cutting boards like I was cleansing the last 15 years from my skin. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Carl, decline. 30 seconds later, again, Carl. I let it go to voicemail. Another one, no message. Just kept ringing like he thought eventually I'd cave if he called enough times. Then a text from Angie. You're gonna love this. New girl didn't know how to light the gas burners. Backup stoves fried. Literally. They brought in electric griddles from home. Blew the power. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply. Didn't even feel angry, just tired. Like watching someone who locked themselves out of a house I told them not to leave. The phone buzzed again. Carl, for the 4th time. Then, 5th. Then a voicemail popped up. I didn't listen to it. I tossed the phone face down on the counter and went back to slicing onions for dinner. About an hour later, Angie called. I actually picked up. Her voice came through, low and scratchy, like she was trying not to laugh. He's losing it, Deb. Full meltdown. I didn't ask what she meant. Just waited. City council lunches tomorrow. He promised full service. New girl didn't know what mise en place meant. Burned the rice, didn't even peel the garlic. She had to YouTube how to use a food processor. That one hit me sideways. YouTube? I'm not kidding, Angie said. They pulled out a NutriBullet from someone's car and tried to use it for soup. I ran a hand through my hair, leaned against the fridge. Sounds like a solid plan. There was a pause, then Angie said, he's begging now. Wants to work something out. Said you know the setup better than anyone. Of course I did. I built the setup. I designed that menu to run with 4 burners and 2 hot trays. I built every prep list around the walk-ins cold spots, rewired the timing for deliveries because the produce guy always came late. The systems weren't just mine. They were me. But I wasn't flattered. I was done. I said, calm and clear, I don't work there anymore. Angie didn't argue. She just said, that's what I told him. I could hear something behind her. Maybe a blender, maybe yelling. Then she clicked off. I stood there for a long minute, looking around my kitchen. Half of my tools were still in moving bins. The blender was drying on a towel next to the sink. The tablet sat by the toaster, still logged in from the last inventory check I ran on autopilot out of habit. It would have been easy to step in, just a phone call. One quick fix. Maybe even feel useful again. But that wasn't my job anymore. Monday was his fire to put out, and I wasn't bringing the hose. After Angie hung up, I rinsed my hands, dried them on my jeans, and walked straight to the dining table. My laptop was still plugged in, sitting next to a half-empty coffee mug and a stack of old service checklists I hadn't tossed yet. I opened a new doc and typed in a title without thinking. DC Kitchen Consulting. Sounded plain, maybe even boring, but I wasn't building this for flash. I was building it to run. I started dumping in everything I already had. Sample prep schedules, training outlines, rotation trackers, menu templates. Most of it I'd made years ago out of necessity, then refined every time Carl screwed up an order or a supplier dropped the ball. Now it was mine, all of it. I clicked over to a logo builder. Took less than 15 minutes to find something clean. Knife, flame, clipboard. Bold, sharp, simple. Then I moved on to services, startup checklists, equipment planning, inventory control, sanitation systems, staff onboarding, kitchen safety refreshers. I wasn't just offering advice. I was building infrastructure for people who couldn't afford to crash like Carl was crashing right now. By midnight, I had a rough website built and a price sheet halfway finished. I set it all aside and actually slept. The next morning, I woke up to 6 missed calls and 2 voicemails. Carl was still at it. I didn't listen to any of them. Instead, I made coffee, sat back down, and kept typing. About an hour later, Angie texted, "Oven broke mid-prep. They're freaking out, meat's still pink, nothing holding temperature. Council members complaining." I took a sip of my coffee and kept scrolling through typeface options for the new logo. DC Kitchen Consulting, clean kitchens, clean plans, clean results. Cheesy? Sure, but it got the point across. Angie texted again. No backup plan. Nobody even knew where the extra foil was. They're improvising with hot plates. I smirked and shook my head. That kitchen didn't even have enough working outlets for hot plates. 2 hours later, just past noon, I was uploading sample walkthrough videos when Angie's name popped up again. This time, just a short message. Inspector just left. Shut them down. Undercooked meat, storage temp violations. Carl's white as a sheet. I leaned back in my chair and stretched. The sunlight hit my cutting board, still sitting by the window, with the engraving I'd had done years ago. Prep, cook, clean, repeat. That was the rhythm I'd lived by. For Carl, for that diner, for other people's benefit. For 15 years. But now, that rhythm was mine. I opened my email and drafted a quick intro pitch. Targeted, clean. Sent it to 3 cafe owners I'd met over the years. People who used to pick my brain during deliveries or compliment my systems when they came in for brunch. I hit send, then opened a fresh spreadsheet titled Client Intake. The calls from Carl kept coming. I didn't even bother silencing the phone anymore. I just let it ring while I built the damn thing he never believed I could. Midday Tuesday, my inbox pinged. The subject line read, "Saw what happened at Bixby's. I need help. Fast." The sender was a woman named Tasha, owned a barbecue food truck out of Kent, said she was at the city council lunch, watched the disaster unfold from the parking lot, while she served brisket to half their guests who bailed early. She didn't want a repeat of that at her next festival. We set up a video call that night. I asked her to walk me through her truck. It was chaos. Ingredients stacked on top of paper goods, prep space crammed with single-use gadgets, no clear line flow. She had talent, no question, but no system. "You're working against yourself," I told her. "You're wasting time reaching over junk you don't need." She didn't get defensive. She just nodded and said, "Fix it." 2 days later, I met her at her commissary kitchen. I brought labeled bins, a flowchart for prep to plate, and a daily checklist she could tape inside the fridge. By Friday night, she texted me a photo from the festival. Line wrapped around the lot. "We sold out, 0 screw-ups, even had time to eat." Then she sent another message. "You're a machine. I've already passed your info to 2 other trucks. Hope you're ready." I was. By the next morning, both referrals had emailed me. One ran a vegan cart that needed cold storage planning. The other had just signed a lease on a downtown lunch window and didn't know where to start. I booked them both. That same day, I filed for my business license online, typed in the name, uploaded my logo, hit submit. Simple. Done. While I waited for the confirmation email, I got another text from Angie. "Carl's trying to figure out why Cisco dropped him." I laughed out loud. See, I didn't just take my gear when I left. I took the system. The call logs, the service rotation notes, the rep contacts. All stored in my own docs. All built from years of keeping that diner afloat. Carl never once thought to back them up. Now the suppliers were ghosting him. Orders weren't arriving. Nothing was stocked. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped answering for him. You build a machine with your own hands, run it without thanks, and walk away. It doesn't take long for the bolts to start rattling loose. That night, I opened a new folder, Client Success Stories, dropped in a copy of Tasha's text and the festival photo, labeled it First Win, not because I needed the motivation, but because this time, the results had my name on them, not Carl's. Friday morning, Angie called while I was organizing inventory labels for one of my new clients. "No way to sugarcoat it," she said. "Carl just lost the nursing home contract." I sat back in my chair. That was half their weekly revenue. "More like 60%, she said. "They canceled today, said they're not risking undercooked chicken again. Last week's batch showed up late and barely warm. I didn't ask who cooked it. I already knew." "The new girl?" I asked anyway. "She's drowning," Angie said. "Can't scale portions, can't time orders. Tried to prep for 50 with 2 hotel pans and a plastic salad spinner. Said the steam tray didn't match her learning style." I snorted. "What does that even mean?" Angie sighed. "Means Carl's been blaming the produce guy and the supply chain, but no one's buying it. Vendors are done. Now he's scrambling to hire high schoolers off Facebook. Best of luck to him, I said. After the call, I headed out to a cafe I'd helped reboot the week before. Little spot off 3rd Avenue that used to serve rubbery egg sandwiches and boxed coffee. Now they had a rotating brunch menu, clean prep stations, and a staff that didn't look like they were ready to quit every morning. As soon as I walked in, the owner, Jeanette, spotted me from behind the bar and came around with her arms wide. "You saved us," she said. "I mean it. We had 5 people in here all last Sunday just to see what changed. One guy drove in from 30 minutes away because someone posted our waffles on Instagram." I smiled, actually felt it. That's the kind of marketing you don't have to pay for. "You're a miracle worker," she said. "If you ever want a permanent gig." I waved her off. Nah, I like dropping in, fixing things, and moving on. Back home, I found Carl's name in my inbox. Subject: "Let's talk, contract opportunity." I didn't open it right away, just stared at it for a second, then walked to the sink, rinsed out my thermos, and came back. The message was short, sounded like he was trying to act casual. "We're looking for some outside consulting to stabilize operations. Let me know if you're open to discussing terms." No mention of the mess, no apology, just a weak attempt at pretending we were business equals now. I cracked my knuckles, clicked reply, and typed, "I charge triple my old rate for emergency work. Minimum 20-hour retainer, prepaid, no exceptions." I hit send. 3 minutes later, he replied, "Understood. Can you start next week?" Didn't even blink. He was desperate, and he knew I was the only one who could keep the walls from caving in. I wasn't flattered. I wasn't mad. Honestly, it just proved what I already knew. He didn't respect the work until he had to pay for it. By Saturday morning, Carl had prepaid the retainer. Full amount, no questions, just a line in the memo field. Wedding brunch, 60 guests. I wasn't stepping foot in that kitchen, not unless I had to. But I did FaceTime Angie from my desk and walked her through a stripped-down setup. 2 hot holding trays, a borrowed 6-burner from a catering friend, and a menu rewrite that ditched Eggs Benedict for batch frittatas. "Keep it simple," I told her. "1 pan in, 1 pan out. No stacking, no substitutions. You run the clock, not the bride." She nodded, flipping her notepad. "Got it. What about plating?" "Use compostables. Carl hates paying for them, but the dishwasher's shot and you don't have the staff to rotate real plates." She grinned. "You're still 10 steps ahead, Deb." "Always," I said, and hung up. By noon, I had my phone propped up while I watched Angie call the shots over FaceTime like a damn general. She walked the new temp through service timing while Carl stood in the background, hands in his pockets, trying to look useful. They barely pulled it off. Ran out of salmon, but nobody noticed because Angie doubled the hash and stretched the pastry board with fruit. Guests smiled. Plates came back clean. The couple was happy. I sent the invoice that night. Got paid 2 hours later. No thank you, no message. Just a transaction. Monday morning, I got an email from a guy named Rich. Subject line: "Saw your work this weekend. Need you ASAP." He was opening a new diner just outside of Olympia. Said he sat through the wedding brunch. Couldn't believe how smooth it went after hearing how Carl's place had fallen apart. He wanted full setup help. Sourcing equipment, hiring cooks, menu flow, the works. I called him that afternoon. 15 minutes in, he booked me. That same week, Tasha referred me to a brewery adding a food menu. Then the vegan truck circled back, asking if I could train their new prep lead. Every day, more emails. By Friday, my calendar was full for 2 months straight. I was up at 6, typing client plans by 7, doing kitchen walkthroughs before lunch, and still fielding calls at night from small operators asking, "How do I make this run right?" It didn't feel overwhelming, it felt earned. Every hour I gave to Carl, every night I stayed late, every system I created just to keep that dump from falling in on itself, was now paying me back. Only difference? Now the checks came with my name on them. Angie called me on a Wednesday morning. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the decision already made. I gave notice. I leaned back in my chair. "You sure?" "Dead sure." Carl offered me a loyalty raise. She laughed, but it sounded flat. 50 cents more an hour if I trained the next 3 hires myself. Said I was part of the legacy staff. I snorted. He actually used the word legacy? Like he built something worth remembering. She didn't need to explain more. She'd stuck it out longer than anyone should have. I had her resume updated and sent to a retirement home kitchen I'd helped overhaul 2 weeks earlier. They needed a lead. someone who could manage inventory and keep things clean without micromanaging. She interviewed Friday, accepted by Monday. Feels like I can breathe again, she texted after her first shift. Real equipment, real team. No grease fire waiting to happen every 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Carl's place bled out. 2 more staff quit that same week. 1 left mid-shift and never came back. The dishwasher walked out after his paycheck bounced. I didn't gloat. Didn't have time. My home kitchen had officially become HQ. Printer in the corner. Planner spread across the island. Bins of labeled supplies under the table, next to where I used to keep the dog bowls. I brought on my niece Lexi to handle admin work, scheduling, emails, billing. Smart kid. Between classes and part-time hours, she cleaned up my calendar like she'd been doing it her whole life. "You've got 3 consults back-to-back Friday," she said one morning, tapping on her tablet. "You want me to auto-send the prep packets or print physical copies?" I grinned. "You're already better than me at this." We hired a part-time chef trainer the following week, someone who could drop into kitchens and lead hands-on sessions when I couldn't be there. His name was Ray, former hotel exec chef, sick of corporate nonsense. "You don't micromanage?" he asked me during the interview. "I don't have time to," I said. "Just do it right and don't make it harder than it has to be." Sold. That same month, a friend from a local business incubator invited me to speak on a small panel. Topic was reclaiming your work. I said yes without really thinking about it, then stood on stage in jeans and a clean chef coat, telling a room full of side hustlers and startup owners how I stopped building things for people who didn't value them, and started charging full price for what I actually knew. Afterward, a young woman, maybe 20, 21, came up to me near the exit. She wore a server's apron over jeans and held a notepad like she'd been clinging to it for years. "Hey," she said, a little shaky. "I've been thinking about quitting my job. My boss is just, like, you're Carl, but with better hair gel." I cracked a smile. She held my eyes and said, "Your story helped me not give up. I didn't know people could walk away and still win." That landed harder than I expected. It stuck in my chest the whole drive home. Money's great. Booked clients are great. But that's what mattered. The following week, Angie sent me a screenshot from the state's business alert system. Bixby's Diner, temporary closure, 7 days, health code non-compliance. I called her. "You serious?" "Inspector walked in during a private brunch," she said. "Found spoiled cream cheese, lukewarm eggs, fridge at 51 degrees. Shut it down on the spot." I didn't even have a reaction. Just nodded to myself and moved on to reviewing a menu redesign for a new cafe in Ballard. By Friday, they'd lost 2 more catering contracts. One bakery they partnered with posted publicly that they'd pulled out of a joint event due to safety concerns. Another local community center canceled their meal deal. No explanation given. Didn't need one. Carl tried to pivot. Started posting on Facebook about renting out the diner space for private events and gatherings. Basically begging people to forget the food part. I didn't bother watching him spiral. I was booked solid. Lexi was managing 3 inboxes now. Ray was bouncing between setups in Tacoma and Everett. Our monthly board was covered in Post-its. Red meant complete. Yellow meant urgent. Blue meant new lead. The whole wall looked like a damn war map, and we were winning every square inch. Then Naomi called. Her name popped up on caller ID just as I was finishing a site review for a ramen ghost kitchen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to pick up. "Deborah?" she said. "It's Naomi, from Roland Properties." I knew the name. Roland was the corporate firm that owned the land Bixby sat on. Carl didn't own the building. He just leased it. "Sure," I said. "What's going on?" "I've heard about the work you've been doing. Multiple tenants in our portfolio have mentioned you. I wanted to see if you'd be open to consulting for a new project." I pulled my planner closer. "Depends what kind of project." "We're launching a chain of startup diners. Small footprint, high efficiency, strong local sourcing. Soft opening starting Q2 next year." I didn't say anything right away. She filled the silence. "We don't want traditional restaurant management. We want someone to build from scratch. Layout, flow, training, prep systems. Full freedom, high budget, minimal red tape." Now that got my attention. I said, "I don't do W-2, consulting only. My terms are fixed. I don't report to middle managers. If I see nonsense, I walk." "Understood," she said. "Send over your rates and structure. I'll get you a contract draft by end of week." I clicked open my rate sheet and emailed it within the hour. She replied 10 minutes later, "Agreed." looking forward to working together. I sat back in my chair, glanced across the kitchen at my old cutting board, the one with burn marks on the corners and a faded DC carved into the bottom. 15 years of building for someone else. Now I was the one being brought in to build from zero, with full control, full respect, and not a damn excuse in sight. Carl was busy trying to sell the floor space. I was about to design 6 of them. 3 months to the day since I walked out of Bixby's, I stood backstage at a charity banquet in downtown Seattle, clipboard in one hand, headset in the other. The kitchen was running like clockwork. Appetizers were out, mains prepped, dessert plates chilling. No shouting, no chaos, no guesswork, just clean movement and sharp timing. I designed the whole thing, from the backline layout to the tray pass rotation to the staff cheat sheets taped beside every station. Ray was running the line. Lexi was handling press check-ins, and 2 of my former clients were donating food. One even brought their own prep team just to help. When it wrapped, I stepped outside for air. My phone buzzed. Naomi. Subject. Another proposal. Body. We've officially acquired the Bixby space. We'd like to offer you the lead operations role for the rebrand. Full creative control. Let me know. I stared at the screen for a second, then typed back, "Thanks, but I'm building my own kitchen now." That was it. No long message, no back and forth, just the truth. That Friday, a brown box showed up on my porch. No return label, just my name, handwritten in Sharpie. Inside was a cutting board, maple, heavy, smooth. On the top edge, engraved in neat block letters, "In recognition of everything you held together," there was a sticky note taped underneath. "You deserved this a long time ago. Angie." I stood there a minute, hand resting on the wood, thumb tracing the corners. Then I brought it inside and hung it above the sink in my home office, right where the light caught it in the mornings. Not because I needed the reminder, but because I earned every inch of this. And I'll never give it away again.